I am going to talk about the closing disclosure. A lot of people have known this previously to be known as the HUD-1 settlement statement, which is sometimes used in cash transactions, but anything with a loan or mortgage is going to use the closing disclosure. The buyers will have their separate closing disclosure. Sellers will have their separate closing disclosure. A lot of attorneys will use the ALTA-1 settlement statement, which also puts all these two closing disclosure numbers onto one, on which all parties will sign. So pretty much these documents are going to have all the final numbers and breakdown, and it'll let the buyer know exactly how much they would need to bring to closing, which most closing attorneys are going to require that to be wired into their account. And then it'll also let the sellers know the bottom line number that they're going to be walking away from if they're profiting. So a lot of buyers and sellers always ask if they need to bring separate checks for different items. Everything is obviously debited and credited, and there's going to be one bottom line number for the sellers and one bottom line number for the buyer. So no need to bring extra separate checks. So I'm going to go over the buyer's closing disclosure first. The lenders must give you this closing disclosure 3 days prior to closing for your review and comparison. It's going to have all of your loan figures on there, interest rate, payment, etc. It's going to also have the initial loan estimate that they estimated, and then what the final numbers look like, and it'll have that comparison. It's going to obviously have the final purchase price on there. It's going to have all of your costs involved. Obviously, any loan cost, any attorney cost, any inspection cost, etc. There'll be prorations on there for taxes, insurance, HOA. We will go over that with you and explain all the details of that closing disclosure when you do receive it. And then it'll have that bottom line that you need to bring to closing. Again, most attorneys are going to require that to be wired. That's really it. A summary of the buyer's closing disclosure. On the seller's disclosure, it's obviously going to have the price there. It's also going to have any proration for taxes and HOA dues, etc. It's all going to be prorated to the day of closing for both the buyer and the seller. It's going to have any type of loan payoff on there. And a lot of sellers will say, hey, my principal balance was X. How come the payoff is higher? So interest keeps accruing on your loan. So the payoff might have extra interest from when your last payment was made. And a lot of attorneys will cushion and add a few days to it just in case. You will receive back any proceeds that are over the exact payoff on the date that the bank receives it. Also, your taxes will be prorated right to the day. You may have an escrow account. If you have an escrow account, once that mortgage is paid off, your mortgage lender is required to send you obviously any escrow balance. Usually you will see that within anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks after closing. So make sure that your bank has your new mailing address to send out that check to you. Also have your wiring instructions prepared. A lot of the attorneys like to wire your proceeds. So that about summarizes it. Again, we will go over your closing disclosure in detail. It's going to have all of your costs on there also, any type of allowances that you're giving to the buyer. Obviously, it's going to have any of your cost, attorney, etc. It's going to have the commissions, anything else that falls on your side as a cost. Again, no need to bring separate checks. It's all going to be balanced out there. All those numbers come together on the ALTA-1 settlement statement in which both buyers can see. So closing disclosure, we will go over that with you in detail. I know this was a quick summary of it, but it's bottom line every number throughout the entire transaction. Any type of invoices need to be on there. If there's any contractors that need to be paid, haven't been paid yet, they need to be on there. Any inspections that haven't been paid need to be on there. So all the bottom line numbers are settled out there on the closing disclosure. Any questions on that, we're always here to help you. We will go over that with you in detail. And also when you go to the closing attorney will go over the document line by line by line. Any questions or anything we can help you with on a closing disclosure, please let us know.